massive teamfight impact. So I would definitely look for him to get either his Sand King or Shaker, and then, like Ben said, build the whole lineup around this kind of, I wouldn't say wombo combo teamfight, because it's not that good and EG will dodge them, but have like a good mix of heroes that can force the fights to happen, and then the heroes that make sure they happen on your terms.
So overall, what I'm gathering is, in the end, for Empire, it still seems to rely more on the execution part again than more so than draft.
Yes.
For instance, like Hot Six definitely struggling a little bit with their drafting and maybe having to expand, but Empire, in game, that's where they need to focus again. Gather just together as 5. And Ben, you mentioned this in the very first day when we saw them. They looked super defeated after their game, contrary to most other teams where they were like, "Oh, it's a best of 2. It's group stage." They seem to be talking about, "All right, where can we fix it? Where do we want to improve?" But Empire, I mean, we didn't see much communication on day one, whether it was a win or a loss.
Yeah, morale did not seem very good for their team. It was probably not unlucky of them for them to draw Vici in the first round. I think if they had faced a weaker opponent and gone 2-0 in that first match, things would be a lot different. They seem to, I don't want to say emotional team, but just streaky in general. I think one particular player that hasn't delivered like he normally has is Aloha Dance. Aloha Dance is one of the scarier rumors. I would even compare him to Sneeko on some aspects, especially with heroes like Rubik. I think he has very high impact on, and he just hasn't been a threat. I just never feel like the team that's playing against Empire is scared of really that much anything. They feel comfortable and in control the whole game. And Empire before, it's like the team that always throws you off. You don't know where Aloha Dance is going to be. Resolution is getting out of control. Yoki is going to make big plays here and there, and it just hasn't been very formidable.
Could it be that maybe Aloha Dance, I mean, he's a very young player. He has, of course, been in multiple lands already. Could it be that here, maybe different setting, all these people, slightly nerves getting to him? Is that a valid option? I don't know from a player perspective if that actually would affect him, because once he turns the game on, I mean.
I think what seems more likely than him being just nervous in the setting is that they start getting nervous with each other. Like, if they can, if their chemistry and their understanding and their calls are the same as they used to be, because they've had a couple of questionable losses, and then it's very easy if in a couple of games you make some mistakes that you're like, we never make these mistakes, what's going on? Then when you start play calling in the following games, you're starting to doubt yourself. And it's one thing to doubt yourself, but when you start doubting each other, that's when it gets really bad.
Right.
And judging from how they've been communicating after the games, when the game is over, it seems like the team isn't as tight as it used to be in terms of personalities and just overall communication. If that transfers into the game, that could be where things are just going wrong.
Okay. I mean, Ben, what do you think about that? I mean, the outside factors, which do you think is affecting Empire more? Or, of course, I mean, we can't tell for sure, right? We're not in there with them.
I mean, this is Dota. This is a 5v5 game with play by humans. They aren't Dota robots, Dota machines that play Dota all day, as some people might think. But, I mean, again, they're young people. We don't know them too well personally, but yeah, judging from what we've seen, even from them walking around and just chatting with each other, they don't seem in high spirits. And I don't exactly know why. I think they had like a couple of losses in like late June, early July, which most teams take off, by the way. That might have affected them. It's like, oh, we shouldn't have lost the Fago Squadron or something like that. But I do agree with Sin. It seems like a trust issue in between teammates that has led to this subpar performance.
All right. Well, game one about to start. And actually, as we talk, I find it very interesting because in whether it's sports or any competition, a lot of times when it comes to the top of the top, right, with the world championship for any topic, generally you'll always have, whether it's certain players or certain teams that come in saying like, oh, we're really happy we're here. We're just really happy we're here. Of course, we're going to do our best, but we're content that we qualified for whether it's TI or, the World Cup or something like that. But then here, when we look at those player stories or we hear from the players in interviews, they're like, we're aiming for top 8. We're aiming for the championship again. I mean, every team here comes super determined at TI, and of course, that's why we're getting all these great matches. But personally, I find that very interesting, and of course, it makes for a great show for all the fans watching at home. But for now, let's go into game number 1 between Empire and EG.
Yeah, we're already not going to be able to deal with the silent gyrocopter, which I really like seeing him on. It actually, when Gyrocopter a couple of patches ago, like 2 years ago, was Gyrocopter Lifestealer all the time. It was Silent that played only Gyrocopter the whole time. So I'm kind of sad. He's like one of the ones that is extra nice seeing the Gyrocopter on.
Yeah, he did have it a couple of games in this tournament. I remember at least one Ben and I saw, and there were a couple of moments with Silent. What are you doing?
Whoa, Disruptor ban.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah,
really, that's really unusual.
That is
Disruptor
unusual.
Man in the
But-
first phase.
Very uncharacteristic as well from him. I can't remember what the opponent was, but it was a very memorable game where he's on his gyro, bottom tier 2, they are dire, and he just runs past the tower and gets killed. I can't remember who the opponent was. Maybe you remember them. If you don't, that's understandable. But he's had a couple of plays that are uncharacteristic, just weird mistakes. And as Ben said, if someone has an off game that they don't usually do, of course it affects the game. But if all of them play at like 80%, that's huge, right? Then there's no one to pick the team up if everyone is not playing at their best. So I think targeting this ban on Silent, where, you know, even if he has had overall, he's been pretty solid, right? But even if he's had a bad game on Gyro, it is still his best hero, so he can definitely rise to the occasion on this kind of hero. Disruptor, same story, one of the best supports for Team Empire to play around. And again, PPD done his homework.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. And taking the Quap out of contention, so Empire, I mean, do we think there's definitely a clear priority here for Empire between the others, such as Tusk, Bounty Hunter, of course, Shadow Fiend's still open too.
Undying still in the pool.
Undying is also still in the pool.
And if you wanna have them fight for five-man fight the whole time, then Undying might be a very good option for them to have. Earthshaker will be the first one though.
Okay, Earthshaker's seen that. EG has banned Earthshaker quite a bit so far in TI5, even in the first phase, so Empire not wanting to take any chances there.
They weren't super powerful with it the first day, though. I think we saw it twice in a row from their off lane, and it wasn't as scary as, let's say, Yao's. Again, Earthshaker is a hero that requires a lot of chemistry. Someone has to fall out with the Fissure or the Echo, and we saw that one big play by him, but other than that, like, their early game wasn't as dominant and as disruptive as an Earthshaker I would expect from them.
Yeah. And taking the Shadow Fiend, one of the teams that still seems to be prioritizing that on the Radiant side.
Did that stat on Sumail just say that he went 9-1-3 on Storm the last game?
Yes.
Or did I misread that?
He did.
No,
That's
he
the game
did.
they lost.
Yes, that's the game they lost.
He had one death in the game they lost with like 25 kills.
And that was the one where I think he bought back and
right,
zipped
when
back
it just,
in.
So that was just
stopped
one
the Roshan. I think
So actually, when EG called GG, he hadn't even died in the base. They just realized the game was over.
Yeah,
they had lost 2 lanes back, so we're being pressured really hard. So. But that's very, very strange.
Yeah.
Or unusual, rather, not strange. There's the bounty, though, for AOI 2000. And I personally think this is a really good pick against Team Empire in general, because as we've talked about, they like playing this very fight-oriented style, which a lot of teams do. But most of the time when it comes to Empire, they trade. They're not a team that I often see do like the perfect fight as such, but they generally have a really good grip on, or they have at least had going into this tournament, in fights with assessing whether they can squeeze in that extra kill or whether they need to back out. And with Bounty Hunter on Evil Genius' side, they have a pretty good shot at getting these, say, 2 for 2 or 3 for 3 trades. And in addition to that, Bounty Hunter and Queen of Pain just great synergy overall. And one more thing is, when Empire plays Shaker, it's generally in the off lane, so the chance that he will be mid to protect the Shadow Fiend in this game already is lower, which means that AOI 2000 and, of course, Sumail on the Queen of Pain, most likely, it could also be Fear, will be able to dominate this lane.
It's also pretty good versus Wisp, which they have turned to a couple of times already in this tournament. Not too much success with it, but they do love their Wisp timing.
We've seen quite a few Wisp tinies actually this tournament so far.
Yeah. Definitely.
And people don't seem to be too prioritizing it in terms of bans. It just happens and people deal with it.
Enjoying
Likes you, Ben.
Bursting down people.
Hand over.
Unfortunately, there's not a camera, so it sounds really creepy.
He's a very suitable hero
Yeah, I was about to
for
say,
Sumail.
don't know if that's a quote we want to go.
Shiver just said something like, he likes you, Ben. What?
Now, looking at
Ben got his Ursa.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, just to clarify.
It's narrated like a radio show. What's going on?
Some of the other people that didn't know thought he was a beaver.
A beaver?
A mutated beaver. A dotified beaver.
Yeah, but if you look at it from the side or the front, he does look quite like a beaver at certain angles, so I can't blame them for that one.
Hey, we all call him a bear in game, but what if he actually is a mutated beaver?
Maybe,
He could
maybe
be.
he's just misunderstood.
He doesn't have
be.
the tail.
That's the mutated part.
Yeah, it's not the fangs. It's just the mutated tail. Looking at the bans for Empire, though, I want to bring up the question. Now, do you think Wyvern is going to be something that EG's looking for here?
As a ban?
No, as a pick afterwards, yeah.
I don't think so. I think Shadow Fiend's actually pretty good versus it. And I mean, obviously it depends on the picks, but you need physical damage for it. You need to be playing against physical damage for it to be useful. And right now they have a pretty heavy spellcaster lineup. And yes, Sumail does play very aggressively, but I think there are way better heroes. Like I think like Omni Knight, for example, with Repel is much better versus spellcasters.
Perhaps the Baton even in this one.
Yeah.
And it's good to see a team banning Treant against EG. I'm not sure if this is the first team to do it. It might be the second, but generally it's been led through. And Empire realize how much EG get out of this. And it's a really interesting idea to try to run Treant and Bounty together. In a way, it could be greedy because it's double melee support, but it just allows you so much freedom when it comes to dominating lanes. Not only do you have the roaming Bounty, your mid laner and your off laner also get the benefit of living armor. So you can like really start diving towers super early and go for those kind of plays. So I like it a lot. They're also going to ban the TA of Sumail just in case it's a safe lane co-op to ensure that Resolution probably doesn't get outmatched as hard in the mid lane as they transition into a Storm pick, which I actually think is going to be safe lane for not the first time this tournament, but it's like 80-90% mid. This time it's probably safe.
Now, do you think that's also partly maybe to take it away from each at the same time?
It could be.
Of course, Sumail just finished that game 9-1-3.
It definitely could be.
I really like that opens up, like, if you're going to assume that Earthshaker is off lane and Shadowfiend mid, Storm Spirit safe lane, in theory, all three of those can do just fine by themselves, and therefore it opens up the two supports to be able to make a real big difference on the lane. For example, to help the Shadowfiend down in the mid lane, and to maybe hunt down the Bounty Hunter as well. Just be a bit more aggressive than they normally would be.
I would actually, in this game, like to see Empire not offlane the Shaker.
Okay.
Because I think Spirit Breaker is just that good of a pick here that we've seen a couple of teams use. Oh, maybe it's been the same team both times. It might only have been EG, but I think another team than EG did it. Counter to Bounty Hunter. You keep running him down. He's really good at ganking Queen of Pain in the mid lane. Who did it?
Ehome?
Yeah, Ehome did it.
Good at running down the Queen of Pain in the mid lane, as you do get your Wyvern pick, by the way. Great call. It's good for that. It's good for ganking together with Storm Spirit, really opening up the map, and it even synergizes pretty well with Shadowfiend. It's very easy to land multiple races or even a good Requiem during the long lockdown on a single target that Spirit Breaker provides. So I would say it's a great pick. Whether they want to run it off lane or safe lane is then the question, but it's definitely got to be on their minds here that he is a very, very good pickup here. Alternatively, Rubik, Quap Blink, Track, all of Wyvern's spells.
Yeah,
it's nice.
Now, it's been a while. Always Want to Fly plays a pretty impressive Enigma.
That's true.
Is that an option here? They have, of course, got the interrupt from the Bounty Hunter now with the Shuriken Toss as well, but that's super short range. Winter Wyvern would have to use his ultimate if he wants to interrupt it so far.
It might just be too much of the same for Empire, or it. Not necessarily, actually, when you look at it. Like they have other stuff than just the wombo combo team fight, but it's probably going to give Bounty Hunter too much free reign. If you run Enigma in the jungle, Bounty Hunter can just run after Enigma, take half the experience. True. Their secondary support, being the Dazzle, actually can't really bully Bounty Hunter away that easily. You're mostly looking for supports that have like a really long duration stun or slow so that you can keep chasing him down. And Poison Touch is okay, but it's not good enough, I think. Now they will pick Anti-Mage here for EG, mainly to just deal with the Storm Spirit, it would seem. This also tells Empire that it is a mid lane quap, more than likely, so they can do with that what they want. I think Spirit Breaker just got even better. He is such a good pick here, in my opinion. They did go for Dazzle, a more defensive approach, which I don't think plays to Empire's strengths, really.
From what we've discussed, though, what I can tell is if Empire does go for the Spirit Breaker, I feel like they're looking a lot better already just from the draft. The fact that they're able to take advantage of that, notice that they're in that zone, to pick that out right away and that opportunity in the draft, whereas otherwise